Il a été présenté pour ça va Guillaume? Bonjour Sylvain, ça va bien? Ça va et toi? Oui, ça va, ça va. Ah, ça fait plaisir de te voir. Je suis passé en fait à ton stand pour te voir. Ouais. Et là voilà, on a présenté. Ah super, ça fait des années en arrière là pour le coup. D'assister aussi. Bah écoute, j'ai essayé de t'entendre, j'ai des bonnes retours.
C'est un peu raide. Pour les micros des intervenants, il n'y a rien à faire, ils sont déjà... Ouais. Installez-vous. On va commencer, je pense qu'il y a beaucoup de personnes qui arrivent.
I'm happy to be here for this event, which will be devoted to the optimization of tyre costs to improve the profitability of haulage companies. And this conference takes place at SOLUTRANS, which is a major trade event for the trucking industry. So while tyres only represent 3% of the total cost of ownership of a truck, 30% of breakdowns are due to underinflated tyres. And what Bridgestone has told us is that 80% of tyre problems caused by tyres are due to air leakages. And manufacturers are now endeavoring to develop onboard technology to monitor tyres. And many tyres are now equipped with TPMS sensors to monitor tyres and their pressures and condition more closely throughout their life cycle. Other software and other connected solutions are becoming more sophisticated and being used in a more widespread way. For operators, tyres should not be seen as a cost, but as an investment to improve the profitability of a vehicle. To analyze how the market has evolved, I have Julien Claire, who is the head of marketing of the truck division of Bridgestone, Philippe Moller, who is sales director of Profile Plus, and Guillaume Perdu, who is the founder and CEO of Ecolis, which provides embedded solutions for industrial vehicles. So before we begin our discussion, I will take a few minutes to tell the audience that there will be a Q&A session at the end of this conference to talk about topics we haven't covered during our discussions. So first question, do you feel that after the crisis, with the current crisis we are going through, has the situation led to changes in the way tyres are managed by haulage companies and operators? In other words, do fleet managers place greater emphasis on savings on tyres and on profitability that tyres can bring about or reduce? I will begin because before founding Ecolis, I worked for a haulage company, and I'll tell you about my experience in this sector. With COVID, the first response of the transport sector was to ask itself, where are we going? Transport was strongly affected by the COVID crisis. We applauded our healthcare workers, but we did not applaud our transport sector workers, even though they were vital workers. The way we had to reorganize many ways of working. Drivers of trucks had to face closed services, closed toilets on the roads, so that was something that had to be dealt with. And the first preoccupation of transport companies, of haulage companies, was to optimize the way it organized they organized their operations. But immediately afterwards, optimizing the organizational side, as you Mohamed, means thinking about one of the main causes of problems with trucks. That means, in other words, flat tires, which we wanted to make more predictable. Well, during the COVID period, there was a huge stoppage and interruption in our operations, and gradually there is still a lot of cargo to transport, but people were very worried and anxious, and there was a simplistic way of seeing things that revolved around the idea that because trucks aren't operating, the maintenance costs are going to fall as well, but that wasn't really the case. But in fact, maintenance costs and budgets increased over the period. There's a direct impact on the replacement, vehicle replacement market. The orders of new vehicles stopped during the initial COVID period, the first year. Many orders were cancelled, and as a result, older trucks continued to operate, and replacement budgets had to be increased once again because of old trucks causing certain problems. And the tire budget also increased over the course of the period. You observed the same developments? Haulers had to find different ways of ensuring their profitability without thinking about, and they rarely thought about tires. And at Bridgestone, the COVID period wasn't a good one, but over the course of the period, they realized that tires formed a part of improving profitability. And they've started to focus on premium products rather than low-cost products with a more long-term thinking. So there were positive outcomes after this period. I would like to talk to you about the service offering of the Bridgestone Group. Manufacturers are developing a lot of innovations and have done over the last few years to increase the life cycle and the life expectancy of tires, and that's something you work on at Bridgestone. What services do you offer haulage companies to deal with these durability of tires? So one of the key issues relates to tire pressures. So the right tire pressure allows you to optimize the performance of a tire. For example, if a tire is underinflated, it can reduce the life expectancy by 25%. And it can also lead to 2.5% more fuel consumption. So it's important for haulage companies to monitor all the tires on all their trucks to maximize their productivity. Bridgestone launched a solution a few years ago called Tyre, which involves the use of pressure sensors. These are placed on the valves of the truck's tires, and these are coupled to terminals at the entrance of depots, and when the truck goes through the doors of the depot, the gates of the depot, the tires pressures are measured, and you can detect underinflation more easily this way. So here you have an example of a customer of yours. So I wanted to provide you with real-life figures on what Tyrematics can enable in terms of savings. So the first example is a public works truck company where we installed Tyrematics in June 2021. And here on this graph, the horizontal axis is time and the vertical axis is the percentage of tires which are at the right pressure. In June 2021, when we installed Tyrematics, only 80% of the tires of this customer were at the right pressure, and after a few weeks, after a few months, we are between 95 and 100% full inflation. So improvements are very quick thanks to this system, and this allows for cost reductions for our customers. So Philippe you offer services for haulage companies to optimize their tire management. So what kind of services do you provide to them? Well, tire monitoring. We specialize in maintaining fleets of trucks and tires, so we correct tires as much as possible. What we do with our customers is very tangible, because when tire pressure monitoring isn't electronic, it is done by raising awareness, so raising awareness of our teams working on the fleets, and raising awareness of customers, because tire pressure is something that is in the hands of drivers, it's their truck. So this educational process, this teaching process is crucial today. That's right. The trucks are in their drivers are in their trucks every day, and they need to have to use TPMS systems today. I don't know if you have indicators to tell you how many vehicles are equipped with TPMS systems today. There aren't very many, in fact. It's a growing market, it's an emerging market. The majority of the market still works using manual methods, but yes, we are working on improving the market share, and the market share is increasing, and that's the future, I think. We have other things we do to monitor tire pressures. We'll talk about them later. But in terms of pressure monitoring, this relies on our relationships with drivers, with the companies. We install display systems and visual indicators to remind drivers to check their tire pressures, to remind companies to check their pressures. By improving our monitoring processes, we reduce the number of accidents, the number of incidents due to tires, and we are optimizing tire casing durability and improving all the other factors relating to tire pressures. So to improve tire lifetimes, you have to comply with certain requirements and certain methods and techniques. How do you support customers? Well, what we do at Profile Plus is to talk about annual budgets, to really raise eyebrows. That's something we work with customers closely on. We recommend equipment, we recommend tires, and we ensure that tires perform in an optimal way until they are worn out. We have a great presence in the... We work a lot on the final phase of a tire's lifetime. We use Track Plus, which is a system that works like an electronic logbook, where all the different tasks we perform on tires are listed. This allows us to collect data, and it also means having a geographical location. And at the end of a tire's lifetime, we know that the tire needs to be taken off. When a few millimeters of a tire tread are left, that's when we know. The geographical location system allows us to locate the truck and ensure that it doesn't go too far before we change the tires. So tire monitoring is quite time effective. It doesn't take much time for new tires, but the more a tire is worn out, the more time you have to spend keeping an eye on it. So you're strongly involved on the ground, out in the field with your technicians. How many people do you have on the ground? Profile Plus has around 2,500 people on the ground. We have a big presence, and we are very focused on personnel, on our skilled workers. What's important for us is the men, the people who do the job. So tires is not just something that manufacturers and maintenance companies are focused on. It's also about telematics. How do you support tires in customers nowadays in terms of tire monitoring? Well, the telematics process is all about ensuring that the vehicle's connectivity can send the right data back to the haulage company. There are various types of data, not just about tires. And the telematics, the aim of the telematics provider is to give a haulage company or the haulage sector a TPMS management system which is effective. But if you don't use the data you collect properly and in the right way, then there's no point doing it. Our job is to provide information which can be consumed, which can be shared and used, and to work with the different stakeholders on the market, with manufacturers, with the networks, so as to provide haulage companies with a solution. So, as you said, a major problem is air leakage from tires, and this can cause issues and accidents. So the aim for many companies, and what they do is they check tire pressures on a Saturday. But they are not able to detect slow punctures. For example, on a Sunday evening, you might have a tire at the correct pressure, but by the morning or by the end of the week, next week, it can leak air and cause an accident, potentially. So the data we collect needs to be available to the right people. So it can be manufacturers when we are contracted with them, first of all the customer though, and also the people who work on the trucks. When you have a puncture, you have to inform the right people quickly. This might be a surprise to you, but the first person to contact is not necessarily the driver. Some people think the driver is sacred, but today drivers are sometimes unable to go and change their own tire or unwilling to do so. We don't have spare tires sometimes on trucks because sometimes these are stolen. So the stakeholder we have to inform in priority is the service provider, the maintenance company. Our first job as telematics providers is to transport data. So even if there are friction zones, and even if we have more and more intelligent smart tires. In the past, tires were just round, made of rubber, and they did their job. And today, with smart tires, we are allowed to do a lot more in terms of data collection. This is data that needs to be shared, it needs to be analyzed. Julien was saying something which we observe as well. If you take a fleet which is not equipped with tire sensors, with pressure sensors, if 20% of a fleet being underinflated, it's quite atypical. But even 5 or 10% is quite a lot. So the question is, what do we do to improve this, reduce this underinflation rate? It's all about providing the right information to service providers. And just to conclude on this aspect, and to be very sincere, which is the aim of this roundtable, offering concrete information means saving time for haulage operators. Some of them might have integrated workshops, and they might use Profile Plus or other service providers. But you also need to understand, when you ask a service provider to check tires, whether it's a service contract, this is a business I know well. When you buy a service contract from your tire supplier, you never give them the resources they need to take the pressure. Because first of all, you can't afford to pay the service provider to do so. But the reality is that they can't do that. If you go around a fleet, you take the pressure of a truck one day, check all the tires of a truck and time yourself, see how long it takes. And in many cases, there's no point, because As we know, even 80% of inflation, which is not great, 80% of the trucks which are at the right pressure, we're going to go around the fleet and you'll take 10 minutes to check every truck each time, and that's checking tire pressures which are okay. You need to spend the time and free up the operators to ensure that the workers do their job on the tires that need this. You need to spend the time where it is valuable. So our job as telematics providers is to collect data. It might come from e-collie. We have 50,000 tire pressure monitors out in the wilds. We provide this data, the manufacturers supply the data. We have to communicate it, we have to share this data to free up time for haulage companies, which allows them to not have downtime. So this is great to hear. Haulage companies consider that it's a waste of time to check pressures. And when we check the tires on a truck, whether it be 2 at the front or 4 at the back, or on a semi-truck, if we had pressure data on a Friday night and you have hundreds of vehicles to be maintained on tens and hundreds of fleets, it would be much more useful to have information about the tires that need our attention, and it would be great to be able to focus our workers on where they are needed. That means permutation of tires, optimization of tire wear that allow you to make savings, and whether it be financial or in terms of the material itself, the rubber. But TPMSs that send information to those who need the information, that's something that's very valuable.
So all of this data needs to be mined in the cases that we're mentioning today. Now, I just want to remain on this particular subject of our discussion because we had good follow-up and good management of the tires allows them to expand their lifespan and also save greatly on fuel expenditure as well. This is very important today for the haulage companies. If you have 1 bar down on all of your pressure, this means 900 euros per year additional in fuel, and also means you have to retread as well. Now, this excess cost of fuel consumption, Julien, Bridgestone has a new solution. Can you tell us more about this solution, please? Yeah, that's true. Since the beginning of the year, we have a new solution that at Bridgestone, concentrating on fuel consumption. This is starting with the observation that 25% of costs for a fleet is fuel. Now, when we know that haulage companies are trying to be profitable and that this is going to have a big influence on this, well, it made sense, bingo. And that's why we decided to invest in this. So you should know that a change of 1 class from BAA or from CAB is about 3.3% of fuel savings. This is the quantity we get at Bridgestone. We've established at Bridgestone with our engineers. So that's why we decided to set up this program to make the right recommendations to our various customers so that they will use the right tire policy and implement it so that they can make fuel savings and as well maintain these tires. And that's where the systems such as Tyrematics or pressure sensors will allow us to assist our customers in getting the right level of profitability, and also involving telematics using sensors in vehicles to look at how the drivers drive, their behavioral, their driving patterns as well, and to enable us to assist our customers so that they can optimize their operations. Another subject, gentlemen, Guillaume, you've mentioned this briefly, has to do with data. This is, of course, important information. Digitalization has really changed things in this sphere recently, so we can predict more, and we see new tools emerging as well for the tire covers. And this allows us to enforce efficacy. So in 2019, telematics Thomas Telematics, and Bridgestone has worked on a solution. Now, Julien, what have you learned from these partners who are specialists? Yes, I'd like to mention that this was a strategic purchase for the group because this allowed us to move forward in our vision of becoming a fleet management expert and to provide solutions that are more and more top performers and innovative for our customers. So today, our Bridgestone teams and our WIFIX teams have been working together since 2019 on new technology, working via new technologies, their own technologies, to define new products, new solutions that will provide more added value thanks to a combination of Bridgestone, a Tyre leader, and WIFIX, who's a telematics expert. So to combine these two together, so we're working on a number of new projects, and this is starting to pay for itself because we've got the fruit of this work that is now resulting with something that started in last September, TPMS, WIFIX, that is special because it can do a live feed of tire pressure if there's an incident on the route and the pressure decreases, real-time information will be sent to the driver. Philippe, this digitization is also used in your entity. You mentioned Track Plus, which is a new digital tool. Now, how has this progression changed your profession? Today, we still have to be more and more effective. We must become more effective. We have very few people working, not enough manpower. We have customers who are more and more demanding. As I said before, we are directing our efforts at budget reduction. So this one of the major difficulties we have today with our customers is really for haulage companies is to be able to have all the vehicles. It seems stupid like that, but really people sign contracts and they say, hey, yeah, fine, I've got this person and I've signed with this person. He's going to take care of my tires. But no, it's quite complicated because in no fleet, in no lot, in no customer are we able to have the vehicles regularly to do what I said earlier on. Therefore, the system of Track Plus allows us to use geo-positioning to know when the vehicle we're looking at, when this vehicle will be coming into the lot or to the yard. And thanks to this, we are able to intervene and to do our utmost. It's not easy, but nonetheless, it gives us a better information. We have to continue working on this. Is there progression for this in the future? Yes, things are planned. There is ongoing work right now. No, first, maybe it's confidential, but yeah, we try and be better performers, but there's no other way to succeed with that today. We must really geo-position our vehicles and know where they are, and to ensure that our suggestions, our recommendations, what's planned to do on the vehicle, be in phase with points and times when the vehicle will be present on the lot. And Guillaume, at Ecovis, is digital as well your concern? You're working a lot on your Infinity portal with integrated telematic systems on rigids and trailers. How's this work? Infinity is a continuation of what I mentioned earlier. It's a cluster aggregation platform. It's a kind of a single shop window for haulage companies where different professions of this industry will come together and be interested in the day-to-day lives of these vehicles. And so concretely what this means is that I'm going to find the management of means, access to the semis, to the trailers, and to the drivers as well, and everything having to do with all of these subjects. So the social information, the tires, and temperature management, and also the connection to TPMS tools, transportation management tools as well. It's also an automatic portal to transfer of data because we're talking a lot about digitization, but there's a big challenge today in haulage, which is the interoperability of system and then the roaming side of this data. This roaming data is very important because data that is conveyed today or goods that are conveyed today move. And so the haulage companies feel like it's very tough for them to get this data. Now, Philip was mentioning the fact that this data that comes out of the tire is going to have to move up right up to the right contact person. Also, we need to mine this data. We're talking about where are my packages, where are my goods, where are my vehicles. Now, it's no longer just information about for in-house services. It's used and it's essential to share with one's customer and environment. So it's a kind of single contact here. So we thought about this. We thought about this principle. You use what we've already bought. So haulage companies have already bought a vehicle. So use the vehicle, use the tires. If it's good quality, then fine. So we're working more and more on semis, and semis are very often connected. So fine. So let's harvest this data as well, because it's very useful to the haulage companies. Now, I talked about connected tires as well. In the future, we're going to need to harvest information coming from these connected tires. So you're linking up this deployment with a new coaching service to assist the managers of lots and fleets. Can we find out more about this new service that you are offering to help operators gain in profitability? Yeah, sure, you can find out more, sure. But I'm going to go back to what Philippe said. Come see us at our stand. Come see us at our booth, and you'll find out more. Yes, Hall 1, in Hall 1. Okay. Yeah, just after the conference, come see us, yeah. Now, coaching means going as far as you can in capturing data, make it visible, aggregate it on a platform, and then talk to the operators, talk to the lot and yard operators, talk to the business directors. Now, if we've got dozens of types of data, the day-to-day lives of our operators are not to be data specialists, but we need to convey this into common day terms so that all of this information, all of these things I've invested in, all of these solutions I've invested in, well, one thing we know it's going to cost us. So how can I transform this investment into a return on investment? So this coaching that we're going to offer to our customers has to do with 4 major things: fleet management, the proper use of my available fleet. No, just get your trucks moving and use them right. Managing tire pressure is part of this, and consumption of fuel, and also fewer breakdowns. We have a lot of data about temperature as well, very important. And then the organization of the drivers and dealing with weight. So this is really part of the day-to-day lives of our haulers. We are able to look at data performance, and we're able to compare to the market. So we've got comparative elements, and there we can say, do you consider you're good or not good with this data? Because it's always going to be a choice of the organization of this haulier. Now, we're not there to do it for this person. And also, it becomes just a natural thing outside to go see the haulier's teams and say, hey, here's an example. I think you'll understand. Vehicles that are stuck in the lot, for whatever reason, good or bad reasons. Now, for good reasons, there are good reasons. Sometimes there are questions of rentals or contracts, but bad reasons, there are plenty of them as well. So many, as a matter of fact. The door doesn't close right, or the vehicle's been forgotten or something. So, and I come in and I say to the operator, hey, this vehicle is stuck there, so next month we're going to get it moving. And then afterwards, we're going to go see it, and the customer will say, well, it's still not on the road, so we're going to sell it. So it's not that radical. Nonetheless, it's not that cut and dried. We've never actually sold one of these trucks that doesn't move. But this is part of our day-to-day work in concrete actions. Now, I don't want to spoil the rest of this roundtable. There are very concrete actions that need to be undertaken for services having to do with tires, and this is where we want to lead the market. It's very good to have data. We've got plenty of data on hand, good quality. Now we have to assist the players, the stakeholders in the field so that they can do their jobs better, and this is part of the services that we have in terms of coaching. One last point to discuss with you, gentlemen. Some OEMs and builders and manufacturers, those who make tires as well, have new connected tools that collect more and more information now. Are the real stakes behind all of this? And you mentioned it a little bit, Guillaume. It's in this interoperability of data. How can we aggregate this information, cluster this information to mine it properly and to be more profitable for our operators? Might I start for Bridgestone? Yes, interoperability. It's true, it's very hard to say interoperability. It's really an up-to-date subject now. Let me tamp this down a little bit. We have a lot of data that's already available. We have a lot of data that's not available today that will be available quite soon. So there's more work to be done in optimizing this data. First of all, to collect a maximum data points and to do clear, precise reports on this, to provide this to our customers so the customers will know where to head to be able to act and enact something. And that's the first subject in the long term. Interoperability is going to be of utmost importance. We will see what will happen this next 12 months. Bridgestone, this is part of our strategic deliberations, how we can position ourselves in this field when we develop new offers, new solutions. How to develop this, to have something that's more open, more closed. And I think that really what's going to speak here is the customer, and the customer is going to be able to choose the solution that's best adapted to the customer. Just let me add another point on interoperability. When we say this word, we also mean to open up more to new systems. So we're basically moving from an era where you had one partner who took care of all the digitization of my company, and then this data digital side has really sped up, and there are plenty of startups with brand new and innovative products now. The fact that we do not welcome this also means that we're not interoperable, and this means it's cutting us off as an industry to these products that could improve our day-to-day lives. Therefore, we no longer need to go out and look for a universal one-size-fits-all solution, and this doesn't necessarily make sense. So we look at a haulier, we look at their particular problem, and they'll have different points of view, and the solution will be different as well. So this might be on the market, but not necessarily in the hands of a single supplier. I'm talking very openly here. At one point, we must work with partners. We worked with Dashdog for the ICMR management. ICMR is really important, so they're very good on this. Transfollow is very good at this too. So there are plenty of solutions for a number of subjects. And so when we work with these particular options, ICMR needs a feed-in of data that comes from telematics to provide a good service. And this we're going to find everywhere. Now, if we talk about tires, tomorrow there's one challenge, which is the depth of the groove. And we don't know how to do this, but I want to include this in our Infinity solution, things that will be able to read the depths of our grooves. And maybe it won't just be a single, but there'll be a number of solutions on these tread depth things. That's what I want to specify. Philippe. Oh, this is such a big topic, because when you say interoperability, I think of something a little bit different. A customer who has a truck, and they've got information, and there's a need for intervention. Now, do we intervene on basis A or the original basis, or because it's an emergency thing, we send the information to a B base? So it's huge. It's just a huge thing out there. We haven't gotten halfway there yet. I don't know if the manufacturers are ready for this, but it's something that we do need to move towards, I think, for those who are not mono-basis or single-based. This is something they're going to request as well. Maybe in the future you'll be working with people like Bridgestone. Yes, could be. Yes, for sure. One last word. Perhaps we didn't mention this word. All of these digital tools need to be spread in terms of use. Right now, it's for the big, important customers who are well equipped, and there are plenty of little customers, smaller size customers who are not using all of these opportunities and possibilities. We have to train them and educate them as industrialists to bring them close to these solutions. Yes, a great new adventure. Okay, well, thank you very much. We've come to the end of this conference on the tire sector, and I wanted to use the next few seconds to give the floor to the audience, should there be any questions that you haven't yet found an answer to. Hi, thank you so much for this roundtable discussion. One quick question, because we're convinced when we hear you talk about all the potential of these solutions, nonetheless, I understand that it's not that rolled out yet. What are the obstacles to this? I mean, when you're talking about measuring pressure today, or is it these small companies, these hauliers? What's keeping them from really using this optimally? Might I start by answering? There are two things. Let me share one experience that we had, symptomatic of this. For Ecolis, only half of our customers have a pressure probe system or pressure follow-up system. If we look at the cost aspect of this, the first idea of it, you might say it's too expensive. I don't think so. This is probably one of the points, but not necessarily the only thing. At Ecolis, if you buy our solution, you get the TPMS solution. This is an additional option when we're working already with Ecolis. It's not that much to get the TPMS included. However, we've got about half of the fleet that is not equipped with this TPMS. What's funny is that one of the first points is that it's not our problem, it's the manufacturer, the builder that's taking care of this, or the OEM even. So there's a kind of a cultural issue here. There's another aspect. The idea today is not to promote a single system, but we commercialized on the market 10 years ago. We created a pressure sensor, and there are plenty of offers on the market already. So this pressure sensor, we already created it. We thought just it'd be simple to install, simple to use. I don't know if everybody knows what I'm talking about here. You got your six tires on a trailer, on a semi. So when you got 100 semis, it's a different thing. So this question of installation, facility of use, there's perhaps a big obstacle here that is more than that of price. And of course, it's a market where there's so much to be done. That's why should be partners instead of competitors. Yes, part of the answer is also plenty of people get cold feet. Now, these offers that have been the most frequently encountered until recently had two components. The TPMS side that was very often combined with a geo-positioning thing. Now, in the manufactured offers that are on the offer today, there's a price that was kind of obligatory because of these this twofold thing. Now, this is changing right now, and just the TPMS offer is really coming onto the market more thoroughly. One last point to complete this answer. There's also the question of training people. You must form people. You must explain to small haulage companies. They don't maybe have access to this information. There's plenty of awareness that needs to be raised here, information, education. Thank you, gentlemen. Is there a last question? All right. I think we were quite complete. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for your participation and this great enlightenment, and the SPP and the Solutrans fair as well show. Don't miss our next meetings, the ones that I am going to moderate tomorrow at 11:45. On digital and the most recent revolution in tires tomorrow morning. And thank you all for having attended this conference, and have a good evening. Bye.